So our guest today is the amazing Claire Broad, who is, of course, a Watkins author. Claire and I met through the lovely Theresa Cheung because we've both co-authored books with her. And Claire is actually going to take the floor today. I'm going to be quiet and hand over to her entirely so that she can talk to you a little bit about mediumship and guide you through some of her immense knowledge on this subject. So I am handing over to you, Claire. I'm going to mute myself, but if you need me at any time, just let me know. And if you need to unmute everyone at any time for a discussion, just let me know and I'll have the controls at the back end. So over to you, lovely.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to see faces, I've got to say. I mean, this is just great, isn't it? You know, how we can come together. And I actually think it's quite interesting, but I actually think speaking to the dead is easier than speaking to us in this world at the moment, because glitches and internet interruptions. So I'm keeping fingers crossed that we don't lose each other. For those of you who might not know who I am, I hate labels, to be quite honest with you, but I mean, we need them, don't we, as human beings? So so I've been doing mediumship now, been a practitioner of mediumship for 24 years. I gave my first message, though, from the spirit world at the age of 4. So I have been in tune with the spirit world all my life, but I didn't do anything with it until the age of 21. So you can kind of work my age out from there. And so when I talk about mediumship, I'm talking about the traditional type of communication that you would think between speaking, but you know, a person speaking to somebody who's deceased. But I also, through my mediumship development, moved into the realms of channeling as well, because the spirit world told me for 20 years they wanted me to write books for them. I completely dismissed it. I didn't want to be out in the public arena at all. I just wanted to serve the public. But you know, the spirit world, as I was told, always get what they want, and so these books just happened to me. I didn't even go looking for a book you know, deal or anything. And then I found, just as a subsequence of that, that I was channeling whilst I was writing. So my whole world has opened out. And I think I've pretty much now experienced in my lifetime about all the different kinds of forms of spirit communication that you can have, from talking to deceased loved ones to connecting in with spirit guides, higher realms, angelic realms. I mean, I've bumped it up against elementals. I mean, you know, it's, you know, and my mind is broad now. So whatever questions you might have, not just my name's broad, my mind is broad. So when I talk to you, I don't come from the old-fashioned way of things, although I do really respect the old school way of mediumship. In fact, I think we kind of got to get back to it, to be honest. I think mediumship has become very watered down, and I will explain why that is. But I know that we need to learn from the past, kind of get back in touch with our roots, but we need to break down a lot of the paradigms and the thoughts and the thinking based around how people see mediumship and your relationship to it. So one of the biggest things that I am aware of is that I am not special, and I believe a medium has done a good job if they can reach out to a client or somebody listening to their talks or their demonstrations and help that person understand that they have that connection to spirit. So I'm sure many of you here aren't necessarily here because you're thinking you want to go out and be a working medium. I would imagine a lot of you are here, one, out of curiosity, two, you want to know if you can have a connection or feel your own loved ones around you. If you agree with me, nod, because I can't hear you, so that's fantastic. So this talk, even though I'm talking about what mediumship is and how it works, I am pitching it at the level where I want you to understand that everything I'm saying to you applies to you. Yes, so everything I talk about applies to you. Okay, so I would hope that by the end, because in an hour, you know, I hope by the end of this you will have some understanding of dispelling the fears around this, understanding that you are a medium, and that, because we all are, because we've got a physical body, and I'll explain why. And then I would hope it might just spark a little bit of interest to see that mediums are quite normal people. We're everyday people. That means you know, there's nothing special about all this or spooky. So I'm just going to get rid of all of that. I'm way beyond all that now. So there are two types of, if you like, classifications to mediumship. So there is what many of us have understood because we see on the TV by famous mediums working. That's termed as mental mediumship. Very unfortunate term, I think, because it kind of implies we're a bit mental. Maybe we are. But you know, but that's the kind of thing that you will see when you see, I don't know, Colin Fry on the TV, Theresa Cheung, Long Island Medium, all of that. They are connecting in mind to a greater reality, to perceive deceased loved ones, and then they are giving the impressions they receive out verbally, and they're awake and aware and you know, very much like we are now, or like I'm talking. Okay, the communication is coming through the mind, hence mental mediumship. And then there is physical mediumship. So physical mediumship is the rarer form, but it absolutely exists. I have witnessed it. I have seen the phenomena close up and personal. So that is the kind of phenomena where once the medium has developed a connection with the spirit world mentally, their spirit controls, they're called, begin to come closer and closer to them, blending in energy, because we're talking about soul here, okay? And as the souls come together, the deceased guide or control and the medium soul, as they blend, become like one. And then you can manifest energy power in a room, and physical phenomena happens. So we won't be covering that so much here now, but examples of that are, you get what's known as independent voice phenomena. So that means that instead of the medium talking and the spirit person channeling through the voice of the medium, if you like, through the mind of the medium, you will get a voice in the room that everybody will hear. So I have heard that, it exists. You may get physical phenomena. So you may see objects moving. There is something called a medium's trumpet, which is just a cone made out of cardboard normally, so that it doesn't hurt anyone. And that can whiz around the room. It can have sounds coming out of it. You can have, this all sounds very fantastical, but I assure you, it happens. You can have ectoplasmic substance, which is being used to make manifestation of spirit. So you might actually see spirit forms in the room. But the key thing to remember with the physical mediumship is that everybody in the room who's present witnesses it. So whereas mental mediumship is subjective, the medium is going through the experience and relaying what's happening to them, and then we have to rely on the evidence that comes out for proof. With physical mediumship, all in the room experience it. So then it just comes down to what you want to think that is, okay? Magic tricks, or is it real? Now here's the thing with both mediumship, forms of mediumship, at the end of the day, it has to come down to trying to provide some evidence of survival. So even if you think about, if you see an object flying around the room, for example, that's not evidence of survival, because it could be argued that we are telekinetically moving that object as a group. It doesn't prove an afterlife. So true mediumship is the ability to provide information or phenomena that can give evidence for survival after death. Okay, that is the difference between a medium and a psychic, and that gets very confused. It's all in the public arena, these two things become very confused. So you are all psychic, every single person is. And I have worked a lot with scientists and parapsychologists to try and understand what mediumship is. Is it a phenomena of the mind? Is it just wishful thinking? You know, and how do we scientifically, if it's not, which I know it isn't, How do we scientifically try and make some sense of it? I mean, where I'm at, I have to tell you, is I don't think we can right now. Science is incredibly helpful in being able to prove certain things. So you might well be surprised to know that psychic phenomena has absolutely been scientifically proven. In my book, What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, I write down a lot of the sort of the research that's been done that has been proving all of this phenomena. And for instance, you may have already heard that say in the States with the CIA, they tested psychics for the purpose of remote viewing, which is the spying on other people basically around the world to see what's going on. And for 20 odd years, it was scientifically monitored and proven that psychics could send their consciousness out beyond their body and through the mind view things that were very accurate and bring back information. That's just one form of psychic ability, but obviously there's things like premonitions. So the work of Dr. Julia Mossbridge has proven premonitions, and that they're what she calls precogs. So I'm sure many of you might have had insight or dreams or something along those lines with premonitions, gut feelings, you know, knowing when someone's on the other end of the phone before you even pick it up, who it is. You know, just even mums and well, parents in general tuning into their babies. You know, we are all psychic. So it's a sense that has been squashed and hidden, and I think probably for good reason, in as much as, and I'm not bashing any religion here, but we went through a phase of superstition and religion and, you know, being taught about the supernatural in a fearful way. So then we moved into the realms of science, which then got rid of all the superstition and all the stuff that needed to go to do with fear, but then also threw baby out with the bathwater. So it's like none of it exists, okay? And now we're moving into a time where it's very exciting because science is now trying to understand what consciousness is, okay? And it can't. And because of quantum physics not behaving in the way that Newtonian physics does, and then realizing the universe is really quite a minefield and something that is a baffling, there's this whole aspect to the universe that is conscious, and yet we don't understand what that is. So now we're really at exciting times, because having spent a vast majority of time trying to understand the world around us, we're now moving into the stuff that we can't see and don't understand, like consciousness, dark matter and all that. And the two things are coming together. So mediumship, for the first time, it's still on the fringes, may I say, but for the first time now, scientists are looking into it. So we've got some really interesting research that we can now blend as mediums with our knowledge of actually being in touch with spirit. So I'm just going to help you understand that you are a medium, okay, and that I'm not special. I just want to tell you a little bit about your brain, because I think this is, I wish I had been told this when I started out, because one of the biggest issues with developing mediumship, or feeling that you want to become more in tune with spirit, it's the same thing, yeah, is that the mind gets in the way. We can't switch the mind off, or we have an experience and we then explain it away, or we don't want to be seen as being vulnerable. Or you've got the narrative over the back of us here telling us, well, science says it's not real. So, you know, what is going on? Have I understood this right? Am I going to be, you know, made a fool of? Are they going to run off with my money? Is this fraudulent? All this. I mean, it's a minefield, yeah? So we've got to get our mind out the way if we want to have any kind of interaction with the spirit dimensions and get into heart and gut feelings. So when I speak to you, I'm talking to you there. I'm not talking to you here, but I need to get past here. So let me tell you a little bit about you. Your brain is absolutely fascinating. When you were born, you could only function at one level of electromagnetic wave, okay? So your brain is an electrical piece of equipment. It's firing off electricity all the time, jumping across cells, this mass, giving rise to consciousness. Absolutely amazing. I mean, where is a thought? Where is a thought in your brain? You know, if you cut your brain in half, you just see a lump of stodge. Where's those thoughts? Where's the consciousness, you know? But whilst you are born, when you're a tiny baby, your brain is displaying waves of electricity that kind of go like this, okay? And that is known as the delta brainwave pattern. So I can't show you. I was going to try hopefully put it up, but I'll have to do it with my hands, okay? So, and that basically means that you are in, when you're in delta, you're in a real deep relaxed state of nothingness. It's when we're in delta, we're in deep sleep. There's nothing going on there, okay? Now babies come in and they are in delta brainwave patterns all the time. So it's like they're sleeping even when they're awake because they're so busy growing and developing. So that's why none of us really remember our first year of life, because we are in this very, very still state where we're just growing and learning and absorbing, okay? That's from 0 to 1, but from 1 onwards up to about the age of 6, then the brain begins to develop and it's able to go into theta brainwave patterns. So instead of just being like this, it's a little bit more ripply, a bit more like this, okay? Now, we are in theta as adults only when we're falling asleep to go down to delta and when we are waking up to come out to full consciousness. But children up to the age of 6 are in theta all the time. So when they're awake, you know, they're in their imagination, they're in dream state, they're in what we call astral. Yeah, it's the imagination state, the consciousness state. So try and think back to when you were a child. You would have been, I don't know, on a broomstick, but that broomstick was a horse. And it was really, really easy to see you were on a horse. You didn't even see the broomstick, you were on the horse, yeah? So theta brainwave state is a super learning state. It's where we all need to be at if we want to keep learning and be open. And the amazing thing is that the mystery schools in the past, those seers that knew how to teach mediumship and to get people in touch with the spirit realms, they understood if they took a child between the age of 0 to 6, they could say, show me the child and I'll give you the man. Because they understood that if they programmed that child in the theta brainwave states up to the age of 6, after that, they were set for life. So the scary thing is you go to school and you're told, all of this is nonsense. You're never told to actually get into spirit, to go into imagination, to journey, you're never told that that imaginary realm where you dream, where you think, where you create is a real reality. You're told it's just a dream. You're just imagining, but you're not. That is a level of reality that is completely real and undervalued and dismissed, okay? And you know, for children, they only exist in that reality. So what we're going to say, that most children aren't having a real experience, their first 6 years are just imagination, okay? Now, if you want to reprogram anything that you're doing in your life, if you've got any old bad habits, bad patterns, if you can't switch your brain off because you've been told to be overly thinking, then you want to try and find ways to be in theta in your life. And the good news is that the other way that you can get into a theta brainwave pattern is through meditation. Okay, so meditate. I'm going to say it 3 times. It's really, really, really important. If you want to develop a connection with yourself and spirit, you need to get yourself into those states if you can. Now, theta is quite a deep state to go in. That's where I would say probably the physical mediums go, and those mediums who really have found a way back to spirit that's strong and they're out of their heads. But the good news is that for most of us, we can reach it in alpha states. And alpha is, if you imagine, a bit more like this, okay? So you wake up. Alpha is when you're fully awake, but say, for instance, you know when you're watching TV and you close your eyes and you just let yourself rest, but you're hearing everything that's going on, but you're not necessarily thinking. You sort of just rest in your brain. You can even feel your brain rest in that state, you know. That is where you can use mediumship quite well, thank you very much. So if you can just get there, you can do your mental mediumship. And then in everyday waking states, you see, by the time you get past 6, so 6 to adulthood, most of us, when we wake up, we're in alpha and beta states. That means that our brain is literally going, boop, 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 boop. Okay, you're firing all the time. What am I doing? Where am I going? He said this to me. She's doing that to me. Well, you know, my life's a mess. What's the life purpose? Have I put the washing on? You know, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop for us adults. And unfortunately, we've never been taught that we are able to put practices into our life to help that. You have to train the brain, and this is why it's called a spiritual practice, because it's not until you understand that you are not your thoughts and that you can get a gap between them and enter into these altered states of awareness, then the spirit reality can come in and become very real to you. So it does feel like you're making it up when you first start, because you are entering into the realms of imagination when you get yourself nice and still. And this is why lots of mediums, when you sit in what's known as a development circle, they start by teaching their students to sit in meditation and follow a visualization, because most of us have been trained right out of that ability to even just go with our creative mind and let it lead us wherever it's going to go. Okay? Has such positive benefits on your physical body, it's unreal. But we then can expand the mind and start traveling out into the realms of spirit. So how does mediumship feel then? I always describe it a bit like a game of charades. So I don't know whether you've actually ever had an encounter, if you're here because you thought that you felt spirit around you, or you think you've seen something, or you want to be able to know if your loved ones are there. Lots of people say to me, what does it feel like? How do you experience it? So I always think that mental mediumship, as I describe it, is like a game of charades. So first of all, you may sense. So you may sit in your homes, and whilst we're in isolation, it's perfect time, and just close your eyes and try and still the mind, knowing what we do now, that's the way to kind of, you know, get any kind of insight in. If you think about all spiritual practices, from praying to meditating to whatever, it's all about getting that mind still. Once you can get your mind calm, you can invite your loved ones to come around you, or your spirit guides, whoever it is you're asking. You set the intent, and then you just allow yourself to feel. So this is how I would start. If a client was sitting in front of me, I would set the intention. I would say, you know, I want to work with the highest of intentions, with their best interests at heart. I only want to work with love. Can those who are loving come close to me, please? So that we can provide evidence of survival and that I can be a channel for the spirit world, okay? So you set the intent and then you feel. Now that, I always feel it as if literally a personality, an energy shift. There's an energy shift, first of all. This is the way I experience it. Like I can feel someone's there. Now, here's the thing. Lots of people think, oh, mediums actually see a dead person walk in the room, or they actually hear them speak. No, this is where we've got to dispel all the myths, okay? It can happen, but not generally to us everyday people. So you feel the presence of someone. Have you ever had that feeling where, you know, you feel like someone's gone over your grave, or you've just quickly turned because you think someone's walked past you? It's that kind of feel, okay? So you're feeling them and you're trusting. You trust. You know that life goes on. And you, the way I describe this, you know how when two people have an argument and you walk into the atmosphere and you feel that atmosphere, okay? Now, the atmosphere isn't saying to you, oh, yes, they just had an argument. And Bill said to Tracy, and Tracy said back to Bill, is it? The atmosphere just tells you something that's gone on. And you are then feeling, what's this atmosphere mean? Oh, I don't feel comfortable in this. There is something that's gone on here, okay? No one is going to tell you that atmosphere is not there, though. You're having a physiological response, and it is real. You couldn't measure it. You can't scientifically prove it. But I can tell you right now, you all know what I'm talking about. And you all understand that that is a real experience. So this is what it's like for a medium. They're feeling the energy shift. They're feeling the personality of somebody come close, the difference around them. And they're like, oh, okay, now I'm feeling this. Do I feel male? Do I feel female? That's where I always start. Okay, I'm feeling, what's this person feel like to me? And I'm trusting, because I know that that atmosphere is there. I'm not thinking, oh, hang on a minute, you're waking, this is wishful thinking, blah, blah. I felt it, so I'm going to explore it. Now, as part of that process, and this is why I say it's like a game of charades, as I'm feeling, what does this energy mean to me? What am I getting from this? I might see something in my mind's eye, because my consciousness, my soul, is blending with that of another, a disincarnate consciousness and soul. And as we come together, I'm receiving impressions. So I always say to people, visualize your front door in your mind's eye. You can see the letterbox and the keyhole. You can see the detail on your front door, but it isn't like how you're looking at me now, looking at the screen. That's the kind of sight we're trying to get at, okay? It's not a perfect vision. So it's called clairvoyance, meaning clear sight, clear vision. But it isn't actually clear, is it? You know, when you visualize your front door, it's not like a perfect crystal clear vision there. It's enough. It's a glimpse. It's an insight. And then if I hear anything along with this, as this encounter starts, the clairaudience, clear hearing, is like a song playing out in my head. So that internal hearing, just like a song can be like a brainworm in there driving you mad, you might, just suddenly get a word come, or a piece of wisdom, or an insight drop in. It's like a download. Boop, it's there, okay? So I might hear Bill, something like that, as quick as that. And then I'm feeling, and I'm seeing, and I'm hearing, and I'm charading. What's this mean to me? How do I now put this together and articulate all of this to make sense to the person who's receiving the information? And I can tell you now, we hear all the time about people being clear channels. This is an art. This is something that gets practiced for years and years and years before it becomes clear, because it is so easy for your mind to start thinking. If you look at a real established quality, high quality medium who's bringing through evidence that is researchable, they are almost in that altered state. You will see them, they'll be staring off somewhere to the distance, because they're not fully present. They're in that altered state of consciousness, and they're just receiving and giving, and there is a flow that happens where you literally see them get into the flow, and it's like bomb, 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 bomb. And I always know when I am not in a good connection, because I don't have that flow. And so that is kind of the process, if you like. And if you want to develop your own link with your spirit loved ones, or start to learn to feel them coming around you, you have to understand that first and foremost, you are an instrument. You have a body, which has an electromagnetic field, which is interacting with its environment all of the time, and that is perceiving the unseen reality around us all the time. And you know it's there, because as soon as I say about having an argument and you understand the atmosphere, you can understand that there is an element to reality that is invisible, but is just as real. So that's why we want to just, demystify all this stuff. When you leave the physical body, you just drop the physical form, but your consciousness and your soul continue. So you will have heard it, you're a tripart being. And the way I understand this now with my own interactions with spirit is that my physical body is my way of interacting with this physical earthly world. But my consciousness, or psyche as the Greeks used to call it, is my awareness, is my ability to remember, to imagine, to experience, and become aware of what I'm doing physically, if that makes sense. They're two different things. That aspect of us is what continues on. And underneath all of that, the driving power, the driving force is the soul. There is a energy, probably is the best word to say it, because there isn't words for all of this, but there is an energy that is that divine creative spark I'm saying divine because it is, I'm not religious, but you know, when you even think about the magic of this, you know, just the fact that there is this energy that everything gets created out of, whatever you want to call it, 0 point field like the scientists call it, or if you want to call it God, or if you want to call it universal source, I don't care what you call it, it's just a label. We're talking about the power that everything springs out of, the creative force. You are a spark of that, so you have the soul. So there is these 3 parts to you, and all that happens when the physical body dies is that your consciousness continues on, because it was never physical in the first place. You can't pin it down, you can't find it in the physical body. It was never in there. Your physical body was just a transmitter. It interpreted through the physical what the mind and the consciousness was experiencing. So this is why I say you're all mediums, because you're already spirit. You're already conscious. If I use the word consciousness, it's not so elusive. And if that consciousness can survive because it was never in you physically anyway, it was just interpreted through the physical, then you are it already, and you can have an interaction with another consciousness, mind, spirit, entity, whatever you want to call it, and you can learn to perceive and then to give information. Now, here's the thing, we can all do that, but are we all good at doing that? And that's the rub, because unfortunately many of us will go out into this world and you will find mediums on every corner, and you will find psychics, and it gets very blurred, because I can tell you right now that some psychics think they're mediums, some mediums think they're psychics. They haven't had the training. This does need proper training and understanding. And if you ever go for a reading where somebody cannot tell you or describe to you a deceased loved one or a spirit guide or spirit being, and give you information that's evidential from that, then you haven't met a medium. If you're going for a reading and somebody is telling you about your life, your love, your finances, making predictions, telling you what's coming up, nothing wrong in that, especially not if they're accurate. I've had some amazing, phenomenal readings, but that's not a mediumship reading. That's a psychic reading. And unfortunately, you can see mediums working, so-called mediums sometimes, and all they do is they're telling you about you. They're not providing evidence of survival. So here's the thing. If you want to know when someone's worth their salt, or whatever you want to say, I'm trying to think of the expression, it's gone out of my head. If you want to see a medium and understand that that medium is a genuine channel for the spirit world, I can tell you there are ways of being able to understand. Okay? So there are 3 components to a really strong message. And when I talk about evidence of survival, I'm talking about the kind of evidence that you would have in a court of law. Because obviously we can't scientifically prove an afterlife. We don't have the equipment to measure it. Although I will say that there is science going on, and if you're really keen on the science, I would look into the work of Dr. Julie Beischel and the Windbridge Institute. She has done such stringent tests on mediums, triple blind testing, and has proven that the mediums that she tested were not fraudulent. And she can say that. She says, I can't prove an afterlife. I can scientifically prove the mediums I tested weren't fraudulent. That's about as good as it gets at the moment. So, evidence of survival then. The kind you'd see in a court of law. So that goes either on the balance of probabilities, this person is speaking to a deceased loved one, or sometimes goes beyond reasonable doubt. That's where we're trying to get to. So a lot of people say, if you can, and I see when I'm training mediums, I see this all the time, okay? The first step, obviously, to developing a link is to try and describe a deceased loved one. So you will see the medium start going through a process. If they're worth anything, they'll start saying, I've got a man or a female here, for instance. I'm just saying it as an example, yeah? and they're tall, and this, say it's a male, as I can see dark hair. I can see this person was about 40 when they passed. I can see that, you know, I can feel their personality. They were really vibrant, they were full of life, that they passed before their time. They might say things like, I'm aware that they passed of a heart attack. I can feel it in the heart here, the conditions of passing, that there was a rush, for instance, to the hospital, all of this kind of thing. Now, that would be pretty good. That's quite a lot of information, just that in itself. I don't know if you tried now to do a link, you probably would maybe just feel an energy shift, or just feel male, or just feel female, or just feel the personality. But, you know, if a medium can be saying all that kind of thing and describing a person, they might even say, I've got the name of Dave here with this man. Okay, it's not evidence of survival. So that is a lot of information that the medium has to go through just to get that, if you think about it. For you, before you as the client are even beginning to start to feel a bit of trust in that medium, because let's face it, if you've lost a loved one, you want to go in, you want to know it's that loved one, so you want that loved one described to you. Of course you do, that's what we all want, but it's not evidence of survival. Because, and the reason being is, parapsychologists would say, well, you as the client, you know your deceased loved one. That image and that information is all in your mind. So this medium has just done telepathy. They've read your mind, and they've told you about a deceased loved one. I mean, that in itself would be phenomenal, wouldn't it? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I don't think I want to be in everyone's head mind reading, but, you know, if the scientists want to say I'm a mind reader, you know, then, you know, I'm achieving quite a lot. So somebody said earlier about giving a piece of information that the medium couldn't know. You're on the right tracks, because then after the medium has established the communicator, they then have to move on to the second phase of the message, which is the evidence of survival. So the medium might then start to say memory links, because that is building that understanding of, well, yes, you know, my mum and I did used to do this, so the memory links might come in. There might be things like birthdays given. The medium may be able to give anniversaries of passing, but even that is still in the memory of the person. So if they can give something that the client doesn't know, not just the medium, then we have the best evidence of survival. So let me give you an example of this. There is a lady who, she won't mind me using her name. Her name's Sandy. Sandy Rocket. You can see her on my Facebook page. So I did a reading for her once where I described her mum. I went through the whole process of, you know, her being able to recognize who it is, what the lady had died of, how she died, when she died, how long she'd been passed, you know, all of the what you would hope for in a good reading. And then I said to her, right, your mum is showing me that there is a handbag in your dad's house that hasn't been discarded of yet, and she doesn't want you to discard of it, because what you don't know is there is a ring in there and she's trying to give it to you. So Sandy said to me, no, you're wrong, because you get this from, you know, we all do this. You're wrong. I've cleared out everything of my mother's. My dad's been through the whole house. I can't take that. So I said, oh, I'm so sorry, because obviously, you know, I don't get everything right. It's coming through our mind. I am awake. There will be times when I misinterpret, because I'm human. So I just said, I'm so sorry if I've interpreted that wrong. I hold my hands up, but could you please go and have a look? Just put it to the test. So Sandy did, in her defense, and she went out to her dad and just said, can you have a look? And her dad went into the loft and found this handbag that he had forgotten that he'd put to one side. He found it was her handbag, his wife's handbag. Anyway, so they looked inside and there was the ring. Now, neither Sandy knew that, I did not know that, and even Sandy's dad didn't know that the ring was in the bag, okay? So she now wears that ring, and she said to me, that is the evidence beyond, this is the cherry on the top, this is the beyond reasonable doubt, because I didn't know it. I didn't get it from her. So where did I get it from? And I'd already been through the process of describing her mother and describing so much information to her that she knew who it was, that the evidence was there for her. It might well be that another form of evidence of survival is where the spirit loved one communicates what's been going on in the life of their loved one here post passing. So quite often I will be shown tattoos that have been done in memory. That's just something that spirit worked with me on. So if someone goes and gets a tattoo, quite often I will be shown the tattoo. You know, it's proving, if I'm dead, how do I know you've gone and got that tattoo done in my memory? So that is the evidence of survival. That's what we're looking for. And whether that comes through physical phenomena, a voice coming independently into the room and giving information, or whether it comes through the mind of a medium, it's in the quality of the information that's going to help provide evidence of an afterlife. And remember, we can't scientifically prove it, but you will know. I mean, you just will know. I've had readings. There is things that just go beyond doubt all the time for me. And in the end, what happens is you build a body of evidence. So by the end of your reading with the medium, they will then wrap it up if they're doing a good job, and they will give you the reason why the spirit communicators have come. What we need to remember is this is not just about you or the medium, nothing to do with the medium, but the spirit world have a reason for coming. And I do laugh when people say you shouldn't be calling up the dead. They contact us. You know, they're the ones that are trying to get through to us all the time. They're trying to bring signs. They're trying to, you know, draw your attention to things, make you feel them, bring perfumes in. I don't know if you've ever had Claire scent, where you actually smell flowers or smell a loved one's perfume, or, you know, they are around us. They're in this world with us. My spirit guide, White Feather, brought a channeling through me the other day that really made me stop and think, because he was talking about the fact that we are in separation and togetherness all the time. That if we could really understand that the physical world and the world of the spirit is one and the same, it's never really separate, even though it is, you know, that we would never feel disconnected from our loved ones again. You know, we don't call up the dead, they come to us. And a medium can only give what they're getting. And a medium worth seeing is someone who's going to be honest and say to you, I think my head just came into that, I haven't got a link today. I can't get myself into a good enough altered state of awareness. The flow's not there. Or, you know, who will say to you, well, I know what I'm getting. I'm going to trust it. Would you please go away and research it? Let me know if you can find accuracy in this. And I will tell you this, there will always be an element of having a reading where you're saying, no, I don't understand, if it's a good reading. They have layers, and the intelligence of spirit is phenomenal. What you take away on the day will be the surface level of what is coming through from the spirit dimensions. Readings keep giving. You can go back over 6 months and suddenly realize I understood what that medium was saying all wrong. Now I've got a better clarity about what they were saying, because how many of us can really, if we're being told about ourselves, how many of us can really sit and reflect on ourselves? Sometimes we need a bit of distance to look back and think, oh, I was like that actually. I was feeling that way, or I can see now why I was being given that advice from the spirit world. Okay, so if you are wanting to develop, I would say, and that means you're not just necessarily to be a medium, but just to bring the reality of spirit closer to you, I would say that the first thing that you can do is start to learn to still your mind and bring a meditation practice in. I would say simple things like listening to the running of water when you run the tap. Just listening to it stops your thoughts for a moment. All the while you can be bringing little moments into your day where there's nothing going on there and the thoughts aren't distracting you from this work, from the spirit dimensions, then insight can drop in. So I don't know if you've ever, you know, where I was talking about those theta states earlier of when you're just waking up or going to sleep. I don't know if any of you have ever kind of woken up and just felt in those moments like someone's there with you, or have received downloads of information where you suddenly got the answer to something. You might have gone to bed on something and just, you know, not knowing what to do, but you get a bit of sleep and you wake up and there's clarity. When you can get into those states and when you're waking up, if any information comes, if wisdom comes, if knowing comes, that's coming from that higher level of consciousness, of intelligence. That is the spirit dimension. And this is why I'm trying to dispel fear, because all you see, and I mean, it makes great programs, doesn't it? But, you know, Hollywood movies about ghosts and ghost hunting and all of that kind of thing. And so many people say, I'm frightened to open up that doorway between myself and the spirit world. I'm frightened of this. You know, there's dark and light in this world. As above, so below is how I believe. You know, in the realms of spirit, if your consciousness continues, then, you know, you can still have negative thoughts. You can still have positive thoughts. But when you know, I can tell you something, the physical world is far more frightening than the spiritual dimension, because they can't harm you in the spirit dimension, because your spirit, your consciousness and your soul is indestructible. In this world, the physical world, people can harm us. They can harm our physical body. And yet I would probably say that most people are frightened of mediumship more than they are walking out the front door and chatting to a stranger in this physical world. And yet the benefits that you can get from your own mental well-being, your spiritual well-being, your physical well-being, from putting a meditation practice in place, from opening up. It's called opening up. It's where you raise your consciousness and awareness and you expand it out to feel and sense around you. You know, that kind of practice is going to help you even when you've got decisions to make in life, because you're getting into those realms of spirit where inspiration comes in, where creativity is. That's all we're talking about here. You know, there's just too much nonsense around all this stuff. And yes, our loved ones go on. And yes, they can come close to us and they can communicate. And if you practice it, if you're a clear channel and you can get your head out the way and you can just allow that communication in, you can get knowledge and insight beyond your own conscious awareness. And you can put it to the test, and it has been scientifically tested and looked at, and you can provide evidence of survival. And that, for me, is what mediumship is. And, you know, it's just the conduit in the middle between the spirit reality and the physical world. And that's why you are it. And I think the difference between a top medium who is providing really solid evidence of survival and just perhaps an everyday one is just that they have been able to become clearer channels and develop that connection with the spirit dimensions and themselves so closely, because they are in tune with it, that the information coming through is really clear. And can I just say this as well? I want to say your spiritual development is absolutely key. The reason that some mediums don't use their power or their ability to the best, they use it for personal gain, is because their ego is in it. They're not doing it for the bigger picture or the greater, you know, truth to help humanity. They're focused on what they can get out of it. And I'm not going to disrespect any mediums, actually, because what I've learned is that we need our end of peer mediums, because somebody might come along and go to that end of peer medium and it might just spark an interest that then opens up something in them, and then they seek, and then hopefully one day they might find someone who's of a higher quality, you know. But that end of peer medium was quite important because it just sparked an interest. Okay, different levels of awareness, people have different levels of understanding in this world. These mediums are reaching them at those levels. But a true, genuine medium who is phenomenal, I can tell you now, has got deep spiritual awareness, self-awareness within them. They're coming into alignment with self. They're coming into alignment with soul. They're on a mission to help humanity, and they are giving their, it is not about not charging, by the way. Money's not what I'm talking about here, because, you know, that's just an exchange of energy. We've all got bills to pay, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about the medium has a depth to them, so that when the message that's being given is coming out is transformative. There is wisdom, as well as, oh, I saw you go to Marks and Spencer's yesterday and buy a pair of red shoes. Okay, that reaches you so far. It's interesting. You did go to Marks and Spencer's yesterday and you bought a pair of red shoes. Nan's with you. Very interesting. Has it changed your life? That piece of information. You know, if the medium's able to bring through a depth of wisdom in the message that speaks to your soul, that is a catalyst for change, that makes you come away and think, oh, I'm seeing things differently, then that medium really is worth something. And if you find one like that who's giving you not only the evidence, but it's giving you philosophy, spiritual insight, a spark to really move you forward, then you hang on to them. Because I, unfortunately, and you know, it is the truth, I don't see that lots of mediums are incredibly well educated, spiritually speaking. They know the mediumship, they know the process, they're great channels, they're doing very good messages, but have they really understood true spirituality and what it means to get in touch with soul and heart and be coming from the heart center, and to understand, you know, the greater truths that you get in all religions? And sometimes spiritualism, I think, you know, which is a fantastic philosophy, very healing. This work is a therapy, but sometimes spiritualism is a little bit elementary, you know, compared to Buddha or Jesus or these masters. Do you see what I mean? Because it is only, some mediums are literally giving you the surface level stuff that is sparking your interest. But you also want the depth behind it as well. So if you're aspiring to be a medium, this is the full package. And that's what you really want to be trying to achieve. You've got to work on yourself. And no one escapes this. This is why we're here. We're here to self-realize. And that's why there's no point judging any mediums, because they're where they're at in their own understanding. And they can be a clear channel and not spiritually progressed. They can be spiritually progressed and not a clear channel. So that's what I'm saying. When you get the both, you hang on to that medium, okay? Because they've been doing it all. Now, I don't know, time-wise, Alex, I don't know if we've got any questions that we want to take.
Amazing. Thank you so much, honey. Yeah, I might... I've just got a few comments here to share with you. So we have, yes, Ganilla says, it looked like the river in the picture behind you was running at one stage, and both parts of your name are perfect. Clairaudience, clairsentient, claircognizant. Yeah. I can actually see an angel wing behind you and a face behind you, my darling. I took a screenshot of it before. I'll send it to you.
Oh, wow.
One thing I do want to say is everything that Claire has shared, I completely concur with. If you're really walking your talk on a spiritual path, it's about embodying it and really coming at it from that, you know, from that depth of your soul. I just want to see if there's other comments here. Cam says she found you 9 years ago. Evie says, I really like your talk and you have a good knowledge of mediumship. Thank you so much. What I'm going to do is I'll open up for questions so that people can just throw questions to Claire. And then before we go, I'll mute the mics again because there's a few other bits that I just want to talk to you guys about as well. So.
Electricity is one of the ways in which the spirit world can interfere with our world, because we are electromagnetic beings and they are too. So, you know, it's common. TVs go on and off. Music starts playing. I've heard, I know this is going to sound nuts, but when my nan passed, I was hoovering once and I literally heard her through the sound of the hoover and it was clear. And I realized she'd used that. I mean, it's phenomenal the way that they will get in if they can.
Can I share as well, Claire? Like,
go.
I have, so this is for Stacey as well. Like, my lights flicker when my spirit guides are around, and I found that I can actually ask questions. Like, I mean, I do a bit of mediumship as well, so I work with a pendulum. So I've been using my lights like a pendulum, and saying, right, flicker twice for yes, once for no, and then I'm finding I can have a whole conversation. And I know my grandparents are around. I've actually packed for holidays by going, should I put this one in? Flicker, flicker. That's a bit like
yeah, that's a bit codependent.
Yeah, but I just like testing it, you know, like have a bit of fun with it. What do you reckon, guys?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. In fact, you just said, in fact, if I'm going to end on any note, it's that. I've got to say that I have never had more fun in my life than connecting with the spirit world. They have such a sense of humor. They are so alive. They do not want things taken seriously. They're always telling me to lighten up, have fun with it. In fact, when you develop, you are doing fun things, creative things, singing, raising the energy, laughing. Laughter is one of the biggest things that can happen. So I'm with you, Alex. You put it to the test. Don't just accept, if you hear a tapping, ask, was that you? Can you do it again?
Yeah.
Engage. If it's intelligent, it will come back to you. Yeah. So Stacey, that is a great tip, really, isn't it? And I do believe ask and it will be given. You ask and then you just allow them to show you how best they can. And you are setting yourself up for a fail if you agree in advance with your loved ones a code that they're going to come back and give you, because that medium who you're waiting now for this one bit of information might not be able to get what you've agreed. So ask, say, can you show me in the best way you can, and then let them then do it how best they are going to be able to.
Yeah, be open to how it comes, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's amazing. Claire, just for our everyone that's gathered here, if people do want to get hold of you or connect with you, I know that you're running Facebook groups, aren't you, as well?
Yes. Well, so I have my Facebook page at Medium Claire Broad. So I do Facebook Live broadcasts on that. I've got a YouTube channel together with Spirit where I'm putting educational videos up there and channeling and everything that I can. Basically over time. I'm busy because I'm also writing books, obviously. And then I also do workshops. I'm doing online training coming up. I'm in the process because of obviously self-isolating and the world changing. I'm in the process of moving what was happening in the room with people onto online. So there will be some online training. And my readings are booked about a year and a half to 2 years in advance.
Damn.
Yeah, so I do have a bit of a long waiting list, and I just open the diary up and release them in slots, and my lovely mum Anne does all the bookings through my website. So there's lots of ways to reach out to me, and come and find me. We have got amazing community like you do on YouTube and on Facebook, the most loveliest people who all support each other and who are like-minded and seeking and doubting. Because it isn't about just being all la, is it? It's about facing your pain and your hurt and your grief and all of that, and doubts, and thinking, well, I'm not so sure if this is them or not. I mean, that's all of us. That's the same mind. So
get through it together. I
exactly.
Even in all my years of doing it, I still get things that surprise me, and bits of evidence that you do doubt yourself, and then you kind of go to the person and they might find out later on and come back to you and go, oh my god, you were right, and it still blows your mind when that happens.
God, I mean, I'm in so much awe. I absolutely love life, even when it gets as hard and I've been really sort of struggling with this whole coronavirus thing, but nothing is easy at the moment. Everything is compounded, but even then I'm like, my goodness, the intelligence, I'm in awe with what comes through. Really, I am, and I just want everyone to have that same knowledge and passion. It's
amazing. Honey, you've been my favorite so far on these talks. Thank you so much. Everyone's just sending their thanks. Linda says thank you. Desmond says thank you. We are in awe of your work. It's incredible. It's wonderful. And to connect with someone who's really walking their talk and in their integrity is just an honor, and it's beautiful. I just want to say to everyone who's joined us, huge thank you, all of you, for being here. It's your energy that really makes these events so beautiful. Thank you for your questions. I'm sorry we didn't get around to answering everyone's questions. But please, you can put them to Claire on her Facebook if you'd like as well. And what I would like to say is we've got another event this evening. A lovely guy called Travis Ruskus, who is a rock balancer, is coming on at 8 p.m. to teach us how to make a crystal Zen garden, which is a lovely, relaxing, beautiful thing to do while we're all at home on lockdown. If you're interested in more channeling events, next Friday, the 15th, at 8 p.m. I'm going to be teaching about the angels and the nature spirits, and we're going to be doing some live channeling there, and it'll be like a channeling healing event. You can get your free tickets through alexandrawenman.com/events. And we also have Theresa Cheung, who is the lovely lady who connected Claire and myself in the first place, at 10 a.m. Originally, Theresa was going to be at 8 p.m. next Friday, and I was going to be at 10, but we've had to swap. So just to let you know, those times have changed. I'm at 8 p.m. She's at 10. I will obviously be on at 10 with her as well. But she's a wealth of knowledge. She's got so many books. We're basically going to talk about everything spiritual at that 10 a.m. slot. So please join us and come along and have a giggle and share your light and your love with us while we're all on lockdown. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to unmute one more time so we can all just say goodbye.